GM, hello, happy birthday. Chase, Dylan, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you too.
GM audience, it's good to see so many of your wonderful faces. I see some faces that I haven't seen in a little while, so this is exciting. Happy birthday to Across. I want to kick off our call today with a couple of exciting things. First of all, if you didn't see this tweet earlier today, I'm going to share it in the stage chat. We're doing a random giveaway to one lucky bridge user today. So all you got to do is use the bridge. I think that's the only rule. Pretty sure. Could be putting my foot in my mouth. Yeah, bridge any amount between any chains with Across. Sweet. So go do a bridge if you need to, and we'll give away $500. Also, today, during the community call, if you are here and you are a human and you react to a message that I'm going to place in the stage chat right now, then you will get 100 ACX. Just because we love you. So this isn't a giveaway. This is just for it is a giveaway, but it's not a raffle. So if you react to this message before the end of the community call, then you will get 100 ACX because we love you and this is our birthday gift to you. So yay, so exciting. I'll go ahead and post a message really quick. I know Infinity posted one, but I think his is for a different thing. So make sure everybody go respond to Brit's message that I'm about to go post. While I do that, how's it going, fellas?
Good. As you were announcing that bridge thing there, I did a bridge in the background, so I became eligible for the $500. It just filled in 2 seconds. Literally 2 seconds flat. That is insane. That is absolutely nuts.
That is very insane. Filled or like
No, filled. Like it said deposit time 0 seconds, fill time 2 seconds, total time 2 seconds. That's madness. How quick that is.
That is mad. That is absolutely insane.
Bless the relayers who are taking on all of the finality risk. Make our bridge fast.
Yeah, degenerates, but the best kind of degenerates.
Okay, Britt just posted her message. It would be super cool of y'all if you could just like choose one emoji, but if
it's way too late for that, Britt.
I know. I'm sorry. I just have to go through now and filter because everybody's gonna have like 27 reactions, and then there's gonna be Bob who just only clicked on the fire emoji, and if I don't filter for the fire emoji too,
so just say it now. They have to click on the ACX emoji. If you don't click on the ACX emoji, you're not eligible. That solves the issue. Done.
Number go up. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, please do. I'm going to use the ACX emoji to decide or to view. It went to 24 and back down to 23. You guys give me anxiety. That's okay. Amazing. So today is both Across's birthday and also the moment when we get to talk about the cool new feature that we have going on. So let's dive right in. I'm too excited to even ask about data questions yet. Do y'all mind waiting to hear from Dixie before we talk about the data? Or should we?
Sounds good. No. Definitely. Throw Paul under the bus here. You're going to have to talk for the entire thing now, Paul, and we're going to get away with doing no data chat. Go for it.
Great. Love this. I love this for us. Dixie, tell us what is live. Tell us about composable bridging.
Hello, Britt. So I think, anyone who's been here, they've heard me talking about composable bridging for a couple of weeks now, but we switched it on basically now. So what it means is that Across will enable intent-based cross-chain activity in the future. Basically what we need is we're open for business now. People can come and build on top of Across. They can use Across composable bridging to basically initiate an action on another chain from a chain where they have tokens, which is pretty cool. So I think it's going to be a bit of a kind of a soft start on this one because it's one where you need to build it and people will come. So that's kind of where we are at the moment, but we're announcing that is ready to go, and we are talking with a few projects, and there is some cool, interesting use cases actually that people are looking to build on top of this. So we're really excited to see when the first project comes and says they're actually running something live in production on top of it.
Doing sort of like a 2-stage launch with this. So we have a soft launch where it's like we've built the thing and now they will come. And that's where we're at now. And then we're going to do a loud launch once we have a couple of integrating partners on that. And I know there have been a couple teams who are itching to get started on that. And then as a community side, we're going to have a couple of initiatives to try and make our loud launch a bit more loud. So one of those will be a hype initiative. So basically trying to give out some rewards to our community for creating content around composable bridging and amplifying existing content around composable bridging. So that should be a lot of fun to see more of that on crypto Twitter. And then we're also going to do a community integration initiative where you can get a bounty if you basically you can get a bounty for bringing on an integration that uses composable bridging. And so yeah, so stay tuned for the development of that. I've kind of asked our Community Essentials Committee to help do some of the work on creating those two initiatives. And so if anybody listening wants to get involved or help out, head to the committee channel to dive into that. And hopefully we'll have more outlined version of those two initiatives within the next week or two. But super exciting that we're trying to get some community involvement in this launch and bringing it from like a quiet launch all the way to a loud launch. Very excited about that part. And
if I could just add one thing to that also. So UMA and Across will be present for DevConnect and the associated hackathon in Istanbul. So the hackathon starts on the 17th and runs through to the 19th. And we will be having a workshop on how to kind of integrate or how to use composable bridging. So I think it'll be really interesting to see there. Like we'll be able to give guidance, instructions on how to use it. And I think actually it should be pretty easy. We should be able to give some pretty good guidance. And we're really looking forward to seeing some interesting projects. But it could be like maybe someone's got this hackathon project where they're just kind of looking at something, doing something from one chain on the other, and they just choose Across, and we'll be there. We'll be able to support, answer questions and things like that. And if anyone's interested, like definitely, and will be in attendance, definitely come and say hello and check it out.
Cool. And who's going to be there again, Paul? And I know it's you and anybody else from the Across side, or is it a bunch of UMA folks joining you?
We have Dylan actually, which would be pretty cool. So we'll be able to chill out and yeah.
Amazing.
I'll be there pretending like I'm able to answer questions about writing slitted code, when really it's just going to be me shuttling back and forth to Dixie, asking him how to actually do things. But no, honestly, it should be really good fun. And if any of you are going there, I'd love to see you stop by. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Amazing. I expect at least 3 community plus Dylan selfies to make their way to this server.
I'm going to have tons of stickers as well. They've literally shipped me out like a metric ton of them for this event and another event in the near future. So yeah, if you want to come over and get some Across swag, definitely do.
Nice.
Yeah, will you actually, can I make a request of Dylan? Dylan, will you bring me stickers from other projects?
From other projects, yes, you're going to have to give me your wish list and I'll go around.
I've got like 100 Across stickers, but like looking for stickers. So this is a demand I have of you, please.
Yeah, but you have to be very careful where you put the stickers because you don't want to dox that you're a crypto bro when you're out and about in the open, you know? So like they can go all over your office, but they're not allowed to go on your laptop.
No, I just wear them on my head, one per day.
Fair. Totally fair.
I have to also ask Chase, why are you looking for layer 0 stickers, Chase? Come clean.
Yes. Does that qualify you for the airdrop?
So like this is like a fair like. So my wife's favorite shirt that I grabbed from ETH Denver a couple years ago Chainlink one. And it always like hurts me when she wears it, but it was like the nicest shirt. Like we need like high tier swag.
My favorite one by far is the FTX risk management department. I really wish I could get one of those.
Just make one. You can do that. We can make one. You can do anything you want in this world, I've learned.
Can do. Money solves all problems, doesn't it?
Everything, all of them. Okay, let's go back to composable bridging for a second. I want to hear from Dixie, who's been thinking about this the most. What is the coolest or most extensive use case of composable bridging that you would love to see exist in the world?
That's a big question. I've kind of this is not a very big use case, but I would actually like to see someone do. This is a bit novel. It's a bit of a novelty use case. In fact, I would like to see someone do like cross-chain Pong with Across. So like you can send a message from one chain to the other, and then it will just respond and send you one back, and you can just ping pong messages back and forth. And like I don't know, we could see how far it goes. It'd probably go for a long time because the fees are low. That's a really dumb use case, but it is actually one. Like it is one where someone kind of asked, like if they wanted to originate a message on one chain, send it to the other, then they actually wanted like an acknowledgement back. So I think that kind of cross-chain synchronization stuff could be interesting. We have talked to another project where they had like a token on different chains, and they had some attributes of the token that they needed to synchronize. And I was wondering, like, could Across, composable bridging maybe also be used there, for instance? So yeah, that's one thing, like something where you send like a message and maybe you get an acknowledgement on the way back. There's another cool project which probably will be coming out to do some PR with Across in the next little while, and they're doing some like cross-chain auctions, and I think that's really cool. Like, I think what I think is really neat in this instance is that they were previously using a different bridge, like, and they had to bridge their message and their tokens separately. And what they will now do is they will bridge the message together with the tokens. And so you get this like atomic execution, like that when the tokens have arrived, that the message is also arrived at the same time, and you don't have to do this synchronization to wait. And I think it's a pretty novel use case, and I think that it will be interesting to see more about, like, can you bid in some on-chain auction from a complete different chain and have execution on the destination chain within seconds. That's super interesting for me. So those are two kind of things that I think would be interesting. But I think probably the main thing with Across, like composable bridging, is it's like a blank canvas. So I'm sure that what we're going to see is some people coming up with some really novel use cases that we just haven't even wouldn't have even conceived of. So
I have a question about your first one where you basically indicated that people want confirmation, or like they want to receive a message back. How would that get executed with composable bridging? Would they basically just like send a tiny amount of token back with the message attached, or like would they just use arbitrary messaging?
I mean, we have had a project that actually did that. They just sent a small amount back. It's not really the main use case for Across. So I don't know exactly, what kinds of what kinds of use case there would be where you would bridge like a large amount of funds in one direction, then bridge a large amount of funds back. Maybe it would be a different token or something like that. I'm not sure. You could definitely do it. Like, Across doesn't really care about the size. Doesn't care about the size of the message. Doesn't care about the amount of tokens. Basically, the rule is that your message is secured to the value of the tokens that you've bridged. So yeah, it's I just think it's going to be interesting to see what people come up with. But I could definitely see like cross-chain synchronization coordination is an interesting area, and it's a challenge. Like once you start operating cross-chain, like suddenly you start to have issues with like how do you synchronize things. So
yeah, cool. I'll share a use case that I want to see, and I'm putting this out there. I'm trying to manifest this as a community sourced integration, but I think it would be super cool if OpenSea integrated Across, and anybody could like buy or like make an offer on an NFT from any chain. I think that would be very cool. Yeah.
There is something about this like cross-chain auction thing which I think is really interesting. I think that we will possibly come to see quite a bit more of that in the future. So.
Or even just like auction, but just like the idea of a purchase from a different chain, I think is like really powerful from a marketing perspective. Like that's a lot easier to envision as something that's complete, like a completed set of intents rather than a cross-chain swap, because usually that leads to something else afterwards. So like even the NFT idea, maybe it's like a bridge plus swap then purchase NFT for end user or something. Like that would be super cool.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. I think it's going to be great to see what people build, and I'm looking forward to talking to some people and hearing about their kind of use cases and the challenges that they'd like to solve, and hopefully we can find a way for Across to kind of meet those needs. So
yeah, Dylan, do you have any like dGen dreams about what this could be used for?
Brits.
Brit?
Hello, are you there?
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. I'm not sure if it was my internet or your internet that lagged out. Can I ask?
You just heard that I said Dylan and you didn't hear the rest.
Yep, basically.
Yeah. Do you have any dGen dreams of what composable bridging could be used for?
I think in my view, like bridging has always been like the intermediate step to what people want to do, and now we've kind of built this feature that's allowing it to actually take the next action. Paul, that would allow me to pitch a few more kind of dGen ideas. But Dixie, can you do like multiple sequential contracts? Can you do like multiple sequential contract calls with composable bridging? So like if one of them was like an authorization, so like the approve, and then one of them was the deposit function, could you do both of them within the same message?
I think it's basically up to how the how the messaging data is constructed, but you should be able to do that. I would have thought, yeah.
Okay, cool. So then you could basically, without having interacted with the protocol at all in the future, you could now use Across to start on whatever chain you wanted to start on and jump into an entirely new protocol. So yeah, then the world's kind of your oyster in terms of new things that you could be doing. So like dGen wise, Brit, you could probably be running some sort of like searchers there for like new pools that people are launching on like new chains. So like for instance, let's say you're running like a bot that was like screening for new pools on base when it first launched, and like you spotted the bald wet pool. Like technically what you could do in that sort of instance is like use Across to like just like fire into that pool and either add liquidity or like do a trade like based on just like certain parameters, if it's like meeting, I don't know, your meme coin selection filters, but like without having to like worry about the intermediate steps. Like that's just going to be incredibly powerful in the not so distant future. You'll also be able to do like looping strategies, I imagine. Like I wonder, are we going to be able to potentially do like could you basically like lever up like an Aave position, so like where you're depositing money in on the, so like let's say you deposit WETH on the Aave side and borrow Go against it, sell the Go, and then buy more WETH with that, and then continue doing the loop until you basically have like a very large position, and you're basically getting paid to do it because they're incentivizing Go pools. So like if we're able to stack multiple messages on the composable messaging side, Across could be a really nice vehicle to like facilitate that sort of degenerate behavior.
That's a really funny idea. Like, which name a protocol who you think would have that as a strategy that was like built using composable bridging?
I think Gearbox, they do that sort of stuff, don't they?
Okay. Cool. So we've thrown out 3 ideas for the community to chase down, and I'm very excited to see.
Dixie, can I ask a couple more questions? Is there a chance that like projects will start using this and we won't even know? So like for instance, on like the UMA side of things, when like people deploy like an OSNAP contract, we don't necessarily know who they are unless they've reached out to us previously. And like there's like ways that we can discover those new OSNAP deployments, but like we don't necessarily know what DAO is associated with them. Is there a chance this can happen with like the composable messaging? Like suddenly it'll be built into like a new protocol and we won't even know it existed unless we like go searching through transactions and like manage to like backwards engineer what they're up to and see who it's associated with?
Yeah, I think like it's obviously permissionless to use, so we could definitely see someone using this, and we wouldn't necessarily be aware. I think that probably we would we will be keeping an eye out for bridges with like transfers with messages attached, because that's something we've got some interest to keep an eye on it and make sure that everything's working as we expect and as we've tested it. So we'll be kind of monitoring pretty actively. So I think that we would actually be seeing when it gets used, but we won't necessarily know who it is. And then I think in a way, like if we start to get these integrations turning up where people aren't having to reach out to us and get in touch and say like, hey, how do I do this? That's actually, in some ways, that's like a positive sign, because it indicates that,
the docs are really good quality.
Yeah, and bootstrap it, and then just that it's a kind of a simple, simple to use kind of feature. So I think, and that has admittedly, even like the teams that we've spoken to so far, they haven't needed a lot of hand holding on this feature at all. It's basically been like, you can point them at an example contract, you can point them at a function prototype. So this is what you need to support, and then they can just figure it out. And I was looking at one test transaction. It was like the very first time that they tested on a test net, it worked. It executed first time. And I could go into this transaction. I had no idea what it was doing, but I could just look at the events that it was emitting, and it was like, oh, this is really cool. So I think that fingers crossed that we've kind of nailed that design aspect of it, just making it easy to use. We're of course available to help anyone who has questions with it, but it would be cool to see people pick it up and not have to reach out for support as well. So
that's deadly. Can I ask, like, do you guys have like an idea of what like success looks like? So like, is there a certain number of protocols you want to get integrated and using this over like the next few months, or are you kind of just like happy to see how the market reacts to the feature being kind of like soft launched?
I don't know whether we've got like explicitly defined goals. Obviously, we're kind of having like developer to kind of developer relationships on on this level, and we're like, when people come in and have questions, like we obviously want to service them really quickly because we want to just see them up and running and in production. But I don't know whether we've got like any kind of criteria as to whether or not we'd say this has gone really well or not. Because like it's also that each kind of use case and each party that's going to integrate this is different. Like some might be sending more messages of low volume. Some might be sending, a small number of transactions with really high volume, so it's kind of difficult to kind of evaluate an integration because each one will be different. But I think we just want as many as we can get, really. So
we set a pretty achievable goal in the last all hands call for November, which was to get one external team and one aggregator to integrate it.
Okay, cool. All right. And yeah, it looks like we're probably already there, right?
Yeah.
Nice. One more thing, Paul. So like the market is always kind of looking towards like what's next. So like now that you've done this, we're already thinking about what the next iteration is going to look like. Have you guys, like, after deploying this, kind of thought like, oh, actually, it would have been cool if we had done it this like slightly different way, or like this additional feature would be really handy to have in the future? Have you guys already have inklings of that, or do you think like this is the be all and end all of what composable bridging on across looks like?
I haven't seen too much about the kind of the primitive, like the messaging primitives that makes composable bridging work. But what we have speculated about, like in what ways could we build out across or augment across with the use of this messaging feature? Like, could we also use it ourselves to make the protocol better, basically? So we kind of speculate from time to time on different use cases that we could do there. And the question is like, do you do you build this directly into Across, or do you build it directly on top of Across via messaging? But for the moment, there was a forum post a couple of weeks ago from Kevin, and he was kind of he revealed basically that there's an Across v3 in the works, and that's basically sucking up a lot of the focus at this point. So the focus is less so on like how we're going to do a composable bridging v2 or like extend it or make it better, and it's more so like what's Across v3 going to look like. I think so far composable bridging probably looks pretty similar in that ecosystem. But we'll have to wait and see.
The other components of our system might interact more readily with the composable bridging feature, though, right? Without saying yes or no.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, that's kind of like building on top of it, and that, is definitely like a really powerful feature to have, and like we're really happy to have this flexibility because, like tomorrow someone might walk in and say like, hey, I want to do this, and it's like, oh, you can easily do that with composable bridging, Whereas like obviously, you don't want to build kind of all kinds of interesting features directly into the spoke pool because that's like battle tested and that's like ordered really, really strictly and all of this kind of thing. But like if you can build something on top, it like reduces the scope of what can go wrong with it. And it allows you to kind of develop extra features like kind of, piecemeal a bit at a time. So.
Very cool. All right, I won't ask any more questions. Thank you, though. Really appreciate the thoughtful answers.
No,
there was a question from EA Sports. Is there a setup guide? And yes, we actually have on the Across Docs page, we have a change pending, which will be kind of adding like a pretty high level guide about like here is what you can do with composable bridging and here's how it works, and probably some pointers down to some kind of more detailed documents. So as soon as that's up, I will shoot that across to you, and it would be great to see some integrations and also some feedback and questions coming through. So.
Right on. I mean, y'all are just doing my job for me. Dylan's coming out with the questions. Dixie is like screening the stage chat and answering questions as they come in. There's really nothing even for me to host. So, yeah, Chase, your turn.
You can just go home now if you'd like, Britt. We'll take it from here.
That would be great. Would love to. So have a great day and bye. No, this is very cool. How do we think that this will impact Across volume? Is this reaching new audiences necessarily, or is it just enhancing relationships that we will already have? Dylan says
I think that this will increase volume. Yeah, I think that this increases the appeal of Across to additional protocols, and I think it probably is also opening up new use cases for projects that previously didn't exist. And so like once they realize like, hey, now Across has enabled this feature, so I can go and do this, it's like it's like the use cases will emerge by the fact that the infrastructure is there to do it. So
yeah, agreed. This might be like a bit of an analysis question, so maybe the data folks have some answers here, but like the idea of bridge plus action is not necessarily novel in the space, and I think some other protocols have done something similar but maybe different with this. Do we think our version is better just because like our bridge is also better, or what are the differences in bridge plus action for us versus somebody else who is trying to do the same thing?
Ace, talk about your cheap gas fees thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think this could be one of the most important questions. I'm actually not super familiar, so like to be clear, I don't actually know a ton about how our competitors do that. So I think probably one of the best examples of this right now is Connext. I know they have been working on messaging for a while, and I kind of actually respect their team a lot for the type of stuff they build. I think one of the things that we do have going for us is that Across transfers are pretty gas efficient. And so just like always being able to deliver this at the cheapest possible cost And again, it's always minimizing risk to LPs because the relayers are the ones who are tasked with doing it. So the people who are putting their funds on the line are always the ones who are taking the action, not just the passive people. I don't actually know a good answer to that question, but I think it's an important one.
Cool. I love it. I love that answer. I don't see any more. I see lots of good GIFs or GIFs or however you want to say it, but I don't see any more questions coming in on composable bridging. So let's pivot and talk about some data stuff for the week. What has the data team been up to?
Hey, what have I got for you? In terms of like the normal sort of rundown that I normally do, the market is still very much like kind of like crabbing sideways in terms of volumes. So just give me a second, I'll send something in here. But yeah, basically like, I don't know, within the last 3 months or so, we were doing closer to like, well, above 200 million a day on like a 7-day moving average. Now we're kind of down around the 136 mil a day. So yeah, like even though like prices have kind of like spiked up, that's not really been reflected on in terms of like on-chain activity from a bridging perspective. We actually went and spent a good chunk of time improving the quality of our competitor data over the last little while. So like I got access to a bunch more zk Sync data, and that was useful for like establishing like how competitive Orbiter Finance are in relative to us. They are actually doing like significant volumes on the zk Sync to Arbitrum route, which is like where we get a lot of volume. And it's just very interesting to see that, considering that we're doing it faster and cheaper. Like if they can beat that 2-second time that I kind of just called out there at the start of the call, like I know they can't. And they're also charging a flat minimum, like a floor fee of like $2 per bridge, and then a certain number of basis points on top of that. So we're doing it faster and cheaper, and considering that like they're still doing significant volume, it just shows you like there's a massive amount that we can still grab from them. Like we've already eaten away at their market share. So like they were approximately like 20%.
If any bridge could be as fast as us though, it's probably them, because they don't have to go through any contracts.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. So like I think that's really important. Like so like even with them not having contracts and literally just being an EOA on either end, they're still slower and more expensive than us. Like that's just like astounding. But anyway, so like you would kind of just think like as the market becomes more efficient and people realize that like faster and cheaper and security are actually worth it, those volumes should transition over to Across. And I know we kind of talked about this last week as well, in terms of like potentially looking at like new chains and maybe like tokens where like there's kind of like that hype around like potential airdrops. Like we want to kind of be like we want to be taking that into account if we want to be like increasing the total amount of volume that's flowing through Across, because that's going to get like more eyes on the protocol going forward. So like chains like zk Sync, where there's that activity going on, are definitely attractive from us, and stuff that we are definitely looking into in terms of support. But yeah, sorry, that was kind of a rambly offside. So we've improved our kind of data on that, and I will show you what things look like for Across supported routes and tokens. So this is basically like the standard market share metric that we kind of keep track of on I look at it daily, but the team would kind of see this more weekly, and it's just giving us an idea of like where we sit in relation to all the other protocols for the tokens and routes we support. And as you can see, we are now like above Stargate, above Orbiter, above CCTP, and that's exactly where we want to be sitting. So Across is coming in at 34%, Stargate 31%, Orbiter 19%, CCTP 7%. And yeah, we basically just want to continue to see that number go up and to the right. Even if we look at it in terms of like no filters based on the like supported routes. So basically what that would do to the data is it means we would benefit from zk Sync and Stargate, and CCTP wouldn't, but they would benefit from volumes going like to and from like Binance Smart Chain and Avalanche. So it's kind of like a fairer 30,000 foot picture, if you want to call it that. This is what the data looks like. But yeah, as you can see, like we're like slow and steady, like accumulating market share from competitors. So like again, while it's like not like hilariously bullish like the first chart is, it's still really, really strong. And it shows you like even though like people came along and were like, oh, CCTV is going to wipe the floor with all of the fast bridges that are out there. There's no way anybody's going to be able to like compete with them. Like we're managing to do it faster, like significantly faster than them, and actually cheaper on some routes. So like we're really holding our own in terms of like that like big scary competitor that everybody was kind of warning about. Other than that, the one cool thing, I can't remember if I mentioned this last week or not, but there's this ratio that we look at, and this is kind of a shout out to Socket and Li-Fi, but primarily Socket. So that's like Bungie.exchange if any of you guys are using aggregators. But basically, we track this metric called the aggregator penetration ratio, which basically looks at what percentage of the overall market do aggregators manage to capture. And like that's been up and to the right, primarily driven by Socket. And like what you can think of like is, well, number one, this was like started to climb when Stargate were basically Stargate or Layer Zero farmers were using the OP rebates that were going on in it to basically like farm for like far cheaper. And now that Arbitrum have granted Socket the rebates with the ARB token, basically now there's even more incentive to use the likes of Socket. So we're seeing more volume flow through aggregators. And considering that we rank so highly on them, it basically means more volumes for Across. So like we're 99% of the time in the top 2 quotes, and like the vast majority of the time we're the number 1 sort of position, and like that's why we like capture like 80% of like aggregator market share. So that number going up and to the right is really good for Across because it gets more eyeballs on not only aggregators, but it gets more eyeballs on Across. So yeah, those are the kind of like bullish sort of charts for the week. Other than that, we've been doing just a load of like internal work to make sure that the values that were being quoted on the likes of aggregators are actually accurate in comparison to what users are like receiving and paying from a historical perspective. So like obviously we've got that like massive big data set that allows us to see the reality of things, and we're just basically comparing it to historical quotes. And basically what we're seeing is that like, so aggregators, they do have to give some sort of approximation on like origin gas fees when they're quoting people. And because Across is so gas efficient, and because the aggregators are just using an approximation, we're seeing that like consistently on some sort of routes, Across is actually resulting in far cheaper origin gas fees for the end user. So like the idea would be, can you use that information to like hopefully persuade the aggregators to change their methodology to give a more accurate reflection of how cheap Across actually is? And with the hope of that would be that we'd capture even more of that marginal demand that's coming through aggregators. So that's been a big project for me over the last little while. Chase, have you been kind of up to anything cool on the data side? I know you're looking at a few different bits and pieces that you probably can't talk about for now, but any kind of extra bits that you can?
Just looking a lot at kind of operational stuff. Been keeping an eye on our fill times, which I think we've kind of already done multiple times. But just, yeah, mostly operational stuff. Nothing super interesting right now.
No, it's better that Chase doesn't spill the beans. Chase has got really important stuff to look at, and he's there making sure everybody's money is safe. So that's what we can kind of say. One of the other things I would kind of call out is that we're still seeing growth in our LP volumes, which is like really great to see. Like WETH is up 19% since the start of October. So like we're basically have more funds to kind of use. We have seen a bit of a drop off. So like we saw, I think, a slight increase for a period of like 2 weeks in USDC. That seems to have dropped back down, and it's now flat on the month. But yeah, like hopefully we kind of mentioned this in previous calls before that some of the parameter changes that we could potentially institute and running the likes of CCTP under the hood could make Across significantly more performant or more efficient from a capital perspective on USDC in particular. So we don't actually need to grow the pool as much as it would be beneficial to grow the likes of the WETH pool. I'm just looking at EA Sports question there. I can't give any financial advice. When do we stop crabbing and go full bull? Yeah, so what I would say is that my thinking is that the market will always move in the path of max pain. So if max pain means the market runs up to, I don't know, 45,000 in Bitcoin terms, gets everybody to finally think that the next cycle is starting, and then it shits the bed and goes back down 50%. I think that would probably be the path that's going to get the most people off sides. So like that would probably be my base assumption as to what's going to happen. And that's just from me watching far too much macro podcasts and trading podcasts and spending way too much time on crypto Twitter. So that's your not financial advice from Dylan. Hope you enjoy that.
Oh, good stuff.
So calls then puts, not financial advice.
I love how cynical our data team is on like crypto strategies. You're like, here's some super bullish images, and then somebody's like, talk about the market, and you're like, oh, just shit the bed. Shit the maximum shitting the bed is what I anticipate. Oh, you guys are funny.
That was the way of things, though, isn't it?
It's a healthy way to live. If you always assume things are bad, then you're never too disappointed.
Yeah, then you're pleasantly surprised when things actually end up being somewhat okay.
Yeah, totally. Cool stuff. I will say, like, it seems, Dylan, like your hard work behind the scenes with aggregators, it definitely pays off. I just kind of like watching those chats unfold. I think that set of data is pretty valuable to them anytime we give them a glimpse into our crystal ball, because they don't have that same source of data that we do. And yeah, it's just cool to see the work that we're trying to do. Of course it helps us, but it also just gives them more data. Like we're helping the people who are helping us, which is super cool, I think.
100%. Like it's like I think sometimes we take it for granted, like how valuable the information that we've actually got and that we have access to, and like that's been like made possible by the engineering team. But like the amount of times we've had external parties come in and request data from us, and then as soon as they see the first glimpse of it, they're like, okay, can we please get this like every week or every day? And like you just have to say like, no, like unfortunately we don't have the capacity to be able to like share it. But like it is just that valuable. Like it's not something that's widely available, and any of the stuff that is widely available is aggregated to such a high level that like there's a lot of noise and not as much signal. Whereas the like detail that we can break it down to, and the granularity and the insights that we can manage to glean from them gives us a real competitive edge in the market. And like that's literally informing a lot of the strategy that Across is taking like over the last little while. And it's very, very cool in order to be able to make those data driven decisions. So like we're kind of thinking as well, I've been thinking like what ways in the future we could like share certain information with certain whitelisted parties, and like various different strategies we could potentially implement in order to make that a possibility. But like obviously there's like trade-offs to all of that sort of stuff, like what information do and do you not want to share, how would you make it available to them, how can you prevent like leaking of certain information. So all of that stuff I find like very, very interesting. And like from working in like VC funds in the past, like there's definite like security you need to institute around making that information available, and like you have to take it kind of seriously. And I know like just that we're for the point that we are at in terms of how developed it is and the ongoing work that's going on, it probably doesn't make sense for us to do it right now, but hopefully in the not so distant future we'll be at a point where everything is kind of more stable, more automated, and we are able to facilitate those sort of requests. And like if that even means at some point in the future making our information available on like an Across dashboard, that could be something very cool that the community could look forward to. Can't promise anything for now, but like in the not so distant future, that is something that we definitely would like to be able to make available. Just realized I probably signed myself up for something there that nobody was asking for, but c'est la vie.
Amen. Yeah, I love that. Let's see. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in. Let me pivot quick before we end our call here and talk about some community side stuff, or rather some governance stuff. So working backwards, we'll go starting with snapshots. So I think last time we chatted, we talked about how there was a proposal up where Risk Labs was asking for a decent chunk of ACX to work on continued growth of the protocol and developing V3. That one passed with 97% approval and has been executed. So the Treasury just sent a big chunk of ACX over to Risk Labs. No other live. I thought there would be a new one up on Snapshot today, but I guess not. So then going back to the forum, we have a proposal up.
Actually,
yeah, go ahead.
Britt, I'd love to have a discussion about the Velodrome proposal, because from the so you might be able to give a bit more context on it, but basically what I kind of saw was a lot of like genuine looking support for it. But like in recent weeks, and I actually was going to write this up in a comment, I just literally haven't had the time. I would be majorly kind of concerned as to like how effective those sort of bribes are, and considering that over the last few weeks, like we've been making like active strides towards reducing the overall inflation rate of ACX. Like, is there actual ample evidence to suggest that we need that liquidity on layer 2? And like, is that at odds with the long-term sustainability of ACX? And like, potentially, do we want that to weigh more heavily on the decision to re-up on potential allocations towards those like incentivized bribes in the protocol? Be keen to see what like other people in the community think, because like I did see a lot of like positive messages in there, but like I'm kind of the opinion, again, kind of cynically, that like those rewards just get auto dumped onto the market, and the only reason that there is really volume there is so people can farm them. So yeah, you might be able to give a bit more context as to what the actual proposal was asking, though.
Yeah, they basically just wanted us to extend and like keep the bribes going. And there was some pushback from some folks on the team about wanting to understand the effectiveness of the bribe system. I think without like naming any names, I don't want to speak on behalf of anybody, and I'm not the most financially savvy person on the team, so I don't want to act as if I'm like a leading expert on it. But it sounds like Velodrome bribes are kind of expensive, kind of costly, and I don't think it's confirmed, but there is at least a suspicion that a lot of those bribes do get sort of dumped. So I think that a couple of people on the team have expressed an interest in hearing more data before deciding on Velodrome for sure. I think that the community at large likes having liquidity on a layer 2. I think that has been like received really positively. I just don't know if the cost of maintaining that liquidity on layer 2 is a smart play or not for ACX token holders. So yeah, I would also like to invite more questions or more critique on that.
It's the sort of thing that I'd love to be able to spend the time to do an analysis on. It's just like tracking down the liquidity providers and then their like subsequent buys and sells of tokens is not necessarily an easy or quick project. So like, just when we put it in context of all the other stuff that we've got in the backlog from the data analytics and research team and across, like I don't know if I could convince Ryan to like let us spend the guts of a week it might take to actually ascertain that. But yeah, I think it probably isn't too much of an assumption to think that a lot of them do get dumped. But yeah, I can understand the wanting to have liquidity on a cheap layer 2 in order to be able to trade in and out of ACX. But at what cost, I suppose, is the real question.
Yeah, it would be interesting community experiment. Like, do you think it would take a whole lot of effort to sort of scope a project that we could put a bounty up for and say like, hey, we want some community data analysts to go look at like the outcome of these bribes and how those tokens are being used, basically? Or yeah, because I think Velodrome provided some data, but it would be cool if we could do our own checking of that, basically, to see if what our community finds agrees with it.
It's not a bad idea. Yeah, like if it's basically just outsourcing extra analytical resource, I'm all for it, as long as like the scope of the project is really clearly defined and like there's like set expectations in terms of what deliverables are. I don't know has worked in the past, if anybody has done anything like that. But like, you obviously don't want multiple different parties then going off and doing that, and then suddenly like you're only able to pay one, or you have to split the pot, and suddenly it just becomes not worth the time and effort. Because like, as I already mentioned, that particularly piece of analysis would be not necessarily a quick one, because you have to go look at individual wallet sales for like multiple different parties over an extended course of time. And of course, they're going to have lots of different buys and sells if they're an active DEX trader. So yeah, if I haven't disincentivized everybody from doing that, then please put your hand up.
Yeah, good prompt. If anybody listening would be interested in doing a data project, shout out to Britt, and I will have a think about how we could structure that, because I think that would be a cool piece of information to have come out of the community. But also along those lines,
would be very cool, Britt. Do you know, with the composable bridging feature, like, could we potentially use liquidity positions and like lock them into the Across protocol? Like I know we currently have the ACX wrap staked ETH one that we currently incentivize on mainnet, but like, could we potentially send the L2 token over the canonical bridge as like and then deposit that into the protocol, but making use of our composable bridging feature in order to make that like a one-step sort of process, so people could do it from layer 2? That could be a cool project. Dixie.
That would be a cool project. Different than where I thought you were going with this, but I am a big fan of that. I love that idea.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm fundamentally of the belief that the protocol owned liquidity is a great thing for us to potentially be incentivizing. And like, if layer 2 is where people want it, then we should potentially find a way of getting the protocol to own that liquidity and incentivizing it the right way. But like, those ACX bribes sort of things, in the way that they're currently being spent on the likes of Velodrome, may not be the best way to do that. I think we still need to review the data on how effective having the balancer pool incentivized with the protocol locking has been. But yeah, I'm kind of biased towards that from the onset.
Yeah, that's fair. Prompt from Tuna, which is kind of where I was going to go next, which is that there's also a competing proposal up again from Arrakis, and they take a different approach, which may or may not be less costly. And I know that like Risk Labs has been experimenting some with Arrakis and has found it to be a pretty good experience. So that's another alternative for deeper liquidity that we could consider. Don't know if we would do that on an L2 or if we would start with it on L1, just to try and like solidify liquidity there. I think those are two different conversations, and I think most people agree that like, it's nice to have stuff on L2, but when you're comparing solutions, you don't want to compare an L1 solution to an L2 solution, especially since L1 is our main hub for liquidity for ACX. But yeah, so I do want to encourage listeners to go check out both of those proposals up on forum and weigh in if you have any thoughts on, if we should, what if anything we should do for ACX liquidity within these two proposals. What else? That might be it on the governance side of updates. Does anybody want to, from the Community Essentials Committee, does anyone want to come up and share an update of what the committee has been up to this last week? I didn't really prep you all on that. Sorry, I should have let you know that I was gonna ask if somebody could. But maybe an alternative is I could ask for y'all to post, or you know what? Hold on. This is Britt rambling. We do have committee reports channel, so folks have been posting in there, and I think that we can instead direct folks to go check that out. So if you want to see what our Community Essentials Committee has been up to this week, go check out the committee reports channel for more details. Looks like Dylan had to dip out. That's okay. Thanks, Dylan. Bye. Cool. Well, let's go ahead and call it a wrap then. This was a really fun chat. I enjoyed hearing a bit more about composable bridging. I'm excited to see the community initiatives we're going to have around that coming out in the next week or two. Lots to be excited about. A big thank you to all of you out there who are devout Across users. You all make today a very special birthday for Across, and we couldn't do it without you. So very, very big thank you from the bottom of our heart. It looks like Infinity is about to do a wheel spin to give away some ACX as well. So Infinity, take it away. I'm not sure where to look for the wheel results. Are you just going to post it in the stage chat, Infinity? Yes. Okay. Go for it, Infinity. Spin, spin, spin. Let's see who wins. Awesome. Oh, I love it. An OG. Manir, Creddy. Congrats. You win. I don't know how much ACX you win, but reach out to Infinity. He's the official events master of this giveaway. 1 million ACX. Congrats, Creddy. And congrats to everyone who reacted to my message with your emoji. You're going to have a tip coming your way of 100 ACX as a happy birthday present. Don't forget to go do a bridge today if you want a chance to win $500. That's a giveaway that we're doing as well. See Twitter for more details. As always,